The early 3030s came both as a blessing and a curse for Archon Katrina Steiner. By the end of the Fourth Succession War, her daughter's marriage was consumed with Hans Davian, and her first grandchild, Victor, was born in April 3030, soon followed by 4 others through those years. Melissa Arthur Steiner Davian, now Duchess of the Sarnarmarch, grew during those times as a strong and capable leader, not in the shadow of her own husband. When she heard of alleged abuses by Davian troops on several key worlds winning her own march, Melissa ordered the withdrawal of these military units and with Katrina's support replaced them with Lyran troops to keep the peace. However, the same could not be said concerning the Commonwealth at large and Katrina's personal wish for peace across the inner sphere. Opposition to the unification of the Federated Commonwealth was more organized on the Lyran side, with Duke Ryan Steiner, protege of Alessandro Steiner and second cousin to Melissa, rose as a skilled leader for the separatists of the Federation of Sky and the influential Hands-Off movement. His own marriage to Morsha Kelswa, daughter to the Duke of Tamar, further increased his influence as a chief antagonist among the ruling government. Furthermore, the Fourth Succession War did not bring the founding of a sovereign Rashahalg state, as the Tyr movement hoped for. Their disappointment soon turned to anger when Lyran planetary administrators, under orders from Duke Selvin Kelswa of the Tamar Pact, arrived on their conquered worlds, without acknowledging the Tyr rebels, who responded with bombing attacks in 3031. Duke Kelswa responded in kind with brutal police force and mass trials to all Tyr leaders who were on Tamar at the time. By the time Katrina learned of the situation, the damage could not be undone. Still, Archon Katrina Steiner freed the Tyr leadership and publicly berated the Duke of Tamar for overstepping his authority, soon followed by an apology to the Tyr movement in hopes of salvaging some goodwill. Her only hope was to continue negotiations with their leaders so that any potential new Rashahalg state would lean more toward the Commonwealth rather than towards the Draconis Combine. In March 3034, as the nascent Federated Commonwealth was still struggling with its own integration of 2 interstellar states into a superpower, Comstar pulled off a political coup by recognizing the Free Rashahalg Republic soon after Aekon Magnuson's Declaration of Independence, which was followed by Gungino Canray Theodore Kurita, effective military commander of the Draconis Combined mustering soldiery. Because she had recognized the Tyr movement as the legitimate government in exile for the Rashahalgian people at the outset of the Fourth Succession War, Katrina Steiner had no choice but to release almost every Lyran gang on the combined front to the new state. Widespread dissent followed Katrina's decision, especially in the Tamar Pact, with protests that the Archon was casually throwing away these worlds and thus invalidating their efforts and sacrifices during the previous war. Some of those protests became violent, and a few AFFS units stationed in those regions quelled the unrest with occasional excessive force, which fueled the arguments of those opposed to the Steiner-Davian alliance. This also happened to make things worse within the Federation of Sky, where a massive resurgence for the secession movement practically transformed widespread civil discontent into a full-blown rebellion. The Sky Crisis, also known as the First Sky Rebellion, became a series of clashes between the Fetsum troops and separatists that claimed hundreds of lives. Only the personal intervention of Duke Ryan Steiner as mediator led to the peaceful standoff for the time being. Still, both Sky and Tamar regions became volatile for years to come, which made the original plans for a 3035 invasion of the Combine now practically impossible. As revisions for the coming conflict was postponed to 3039, with the possibility for an eventual peace through the inner sphere delayed, Archon Katrina Steiner was also suffering from cancer in 3037, and by December 3038, her condition went to the terminal stage. After now 32 years of rule, and with less than a year left to live, Katrina Steiner chose to spend what time was left with her daughter and grandchildren, announcing her abdication in favor of Melissa Steiner Davian in March 3039, taking the title of Archon Emeritus. She did continue to serve as military and political advisor to her daughter during the War of 3039, but she quickly became frail and in great discomfort in that time. At the early age of 63, Archon Emeritus Katrina Steiner died in her sleep on the 4th of January 3040, a few days before the signing of the Exeter Accords that ended the War of 3039.